Hey everybody, welcome to our virtual Bible study for Wednesday, December the 8th. We are so excited that you are with us tonight. Can you believe that Christmas is only just a few short weeks away? We've got two girls. Our girls they are so pumped and excited, and it's interesting as a kid, when you're a kid, you're really excited about it. And now I'm even more excited about it, but I'm excited about it because of my children. I like to watch the joy on their face. My wife and I do. For us, that's our real joy now, is seeing our kids on a Christmas morning and just the joy of being with family and friends. I told you we do this at Thanksgiving. We just spend time with family. That's what we do. I hope you do the same. And we teach our kids not to chase rabbits and get too far off. It's not about any kind of present that they get, but it's about sharing and giving and spending time with family. That's what the season is really about. And so I get excited about that. I get excited about the time we're going to spend with our family, sitting around, eating some snacks, playing some cards, and maybe a Christmas movie on in the background. But I love, there's magic this time of year in a kid's eyes, and for us, that's our real joy. And I hope that you're doing the same thing. I hope with your children and your grandchildren, you're experiencing the joy of them, just having the wonder of the season. So I hope you really enjoy that. Hey, it's time for Bible study, and I'm glad you're with us tonight. Can I get you to do a couple of things as we start our study? I really hope that if you're on the YouTube channel, you'll subscribe to the video. Now, we do ask, please give us a thumbs up. That's a great way for us to count the number of engagements to the video without having to log on and do diagnostics and all of that. But the subscription is really important because, one, you get notifications every time we drop a new video on YouTube. For us, because we're not a monetized channel, this is not about making money for us. We don't charge anything, and we don't make money. We're intentionally set up to not make money on YouTube. This for us is about publishing truth and getting truth out there. And we believe we have something to offer. We think our studies are good studies. They're truthful to the Word of God. We think they're reflective and they're challenging enough and simple enough yet that people can understand it. So we think it's good material. And your subscription to our YouTube channel helps us push and advertise our video content. We can get it out more successfully. And we hope you'll help us with that. Now, if you're already subscribed, there's no need to hit that button again. It'll remind you that you've already done that. It may do nothing at all, but if you haven't done that, please subscribe and help us out if you can in that regard. Now, if you're on Facebook, there's also a thumbs up option. We hope you'll do that, but also share the video on your timeline. And that means that all of the people on your friends list have access to the video now. They might not have seen it before, but they can see it now. And imagine that we have 100 people that watch the video, but those 100 people share the video with another 100 people, or even, most people have hundreds of people, friends on their friends list. You share it on your timeline. Now we're accessing hundreds of people per the 100 people that watched it. So we're jumping into the thousands, the tens of thousands, and more just by you sharing the video on your timeline. So please help us out and do that. That gets us out there and gets the material out there fast. It just immediately goes to the world, and who knows who's going to see it and benefit from it. Wouldn't it be nice to know in the great by and by, when all is done and said, that someone walks up to us and they say, hey, listen, I didn't even know you in this life. Didn't even know you. But you shared a video once, and what was being discussed on that video helped me to understand the truth, and I obeyed the gospel, and I'm right here on the street of gold with you because you shared that video. You never know. It doesn't hurt anything. Just share the video, and let's do our best to get truth out there. Okay, so let's pick it back up with our current study. Now, we've been studying the scheme of redemption for a while. We've come a long way from the introduction of it to talking about some of the terms we're going to see, things like reconciliation, fellowship, atonement, just a beautiful, deep subject in the Bible. It's the story of Scripture. And so we have tried mostly in our study to lay the foundation for it, so that no matter where we are in the Bible, we see the scheme of redemption. So we've been working a lot out of Genesis 3, sort of our springboard, if you will, for the rest of what we see in the Bible. And we do see it in the rest of the Bible. Everything that we've examined in the early chapters of Genesis is echoed all the way through the Scriptures. We see that being developed in the Old Testament, especially under the law of Moses, even in patriarchy, and we see the fulfillment of it all under Jesus Christ and in the New Testament and in the church. We see all of that. So I hope our approach is helping. What I really want is when someone picks up the Bible and they say, look, I've been reading, and right now I'm reading from, and they pull it open, they say, I'm reading from Jeremiah. I just happened to open my Bible to Jeremiah this time. Reading from Jeremiah, and you know what? I am seeing redemptive hope in Jeremiah. I am seeing Jesus in prophecy. I see the church in prophecy. I see this prediction of the new covenant. I'm seeing that. And that's what we're hoping for. We're really hoping that people can grasp the foundational story of Scripture, and no matter where we are in the Bible, you just turn your Bible open and all of a sudden now we're in Zechariah or Malachi, we can say, you know what? I know what's going on. I may not, there may be some things I don't understand about the history, and I'm going to work on that, but the story, I understand that. Because it's never changed. Since Genesis 3, the story's always been the same. How God and man are brought back together through the atoning, substitutionary sacrifice of Jesus Christ. So that's our approach. Now, last week, we've covered a lot of material. We've talked about sin, salvation, Genesis 3:15, the Savior. We've talked about sacrifice. We spent a couple of weeks on sacrifice. It was a great study about substitutionary sacrifice and how that works. Life given for life. Blood has to be shed. Life is in the blood. Just tremendous subject matter. We're to the point in our study where in verses 22 to 24 of Genesis 3, man and woman are removed from the tree of life and expelled from the garden. And there's a lot of woe in the world. There's a lot of angst and pain and evil in the world because of what happened in that moment. They're removed from the tree of life. They're not going to live forever. Sin changed all of our relationships to the world. And so there is in the world now evil and suffering. There's pain and anguish in the world that we all experience because of what happened at the beginning. We don't bear the guilt of it. I'm not personally guilty for Adam's sin, nor are you. No one of us are. But we do experience the consequences of that. Romans 5:12, death entered the world because of sin. So last week, we spent some time talking about some of the immediate causes that we might put a finger on and identify in our world that are contributing factors or immediate factors of our suffering and pain in this world. We talked about personal sins, sometimes the sins of others, sometimes it's another person who does a bad thing and you suffer as a result of another person's bad thing. Natural disasters, diseases, accidents, maybe ignorance. Sometimes we suffer because we just don't understand. And I just mentioned our kids. Our kids sometimes get hurt because they don't understand something. They don't understand the pain involved in a certain choice they make. And while we try to protect them from that, they sometimes have to learn that on their own. And so ignorance can sometimes lead to suffering. Chastisement, discipline is a way, and then death. Now, we said last week that suffering doesn't necessarily imply guilt. It doesn't do that, though it can. Sometimes it is our fault and we suffer because of our choices. But all suffering, whether my choice is the immediate cause of it or not, or someone else's choice is, or whether it's any of the things natural disasters, disease, any of those things, all of it ultimately, all suffering is tied ultimately to the entrance of sin into the world and the removal from the tree of life. All of it is. Now, there are some practical benefits of suffering that we wanted to talk about tonight. Most of all, that all pain and all suffering points us to search for relief. We want to be out from under that burden. And that's where the real benefit is found, because then it connects us to the scheme of redemption. Because the scheme of redemption that we've been talking about now for weeks is the answer by God to our quest for peace and escape and our desire for something better. So the scheme of redemption is ultimately the answer for that. Now, being pushed down, sometimes when you get tripped up and you fall down in life, and when you are especially being pushed down because of circumstances in life, that suffering, that trial causes us to admit the reality of our frailty, our inability to ultimately deal with that, our utter insufficiency, our lack of power and our lack of wisdom to relieve our condition. I can't do that, not ultimately, and neither can you. And this is why I'm convinced. This is why sometimes when people reject the knowledge of God, when they hit rock bottom, they sometimes turn to other things to pad the conscience. I think this attributes to a lot of addiction, drug, and otherwise in our world. When people have refused God and they don't know how to cope with suffering and pain in the world, it's an attracting factor to become addicted to something to dull the mind when we've cut out the very thing that is the answer to our condition. So that's my 2 cents on that. I think of 2 Chronicles 33. There's a story about Manasseh, and he's legendary in his evil. He was a wicked king. He was not a good king at all. But it's interesting, at the very end, he suffers a little bit at the very end. And in my Bible is open in 2 Chronicles 33, verses 12 and 13. It says, now when he was in affliction, all right, so he's suffering. In verse 12, he implored the Lord his God and humbled himself greatly before the God of his fathers and prayed to him. And he received his entreaty, heard his supplication, and brought him back to Jerusalem in his kingdom. Then Manasseh knew that the Lord was God. Now that's interesting. This is near the end of his life. But wicked Manasseh turned to God because of his suffering. And if you'll keep reading, down about verse 18 and following, you have the death of Manasseh. So he didn't live too much longer after that. But this man lived in treachery all of his life. And yet when he's personally afflicted, his personal affliction caused him to search deeply and turn toward God. This wicked man, I don't know. He turns to the Lord at the end. And suffering can do that. I've seen that happen to a lot of people. A lot of people are like Manasseh. I've known a lot of really bad people who turn good at the end because they face their own mortality and they face suffering and they're in dire straits, and the only answer to that sufficiently is the Lord. Everything that we now experience in life results from sin, right? All the pain and angst in this world reminds us that there's only one place that we can go for escape and refuge, and that's God. And the scheme of redemption, which we've been discussing now for weeks on end, is the only answer to the sentence of death and suffering and pain in this world. Now, remember, we discussed it a few weeks ago under the heading of sacrifice, that life is gained in sacrifice. And sacrifice does 2 things. It restores life and it restores character. Remember, it removes guilt. And that is why every single problem related to sin finds satisfaction in the scheme of redemption. All of them do. For example, death, right? Removed from the tree of life. Man's not going to live forever. Everybody's going to die. It's just going to happen. But in 1 Corinthians 15, verses 1 to 24, we have the resurrection of Jesus Christ, part of the scheme of redemption. And his resurrection is the first fruits, which means it's a guarantee of our own future resurrection. What about the sorrow we experience in this world? This world's full of pain. Do you think of, maybe like I do, you think of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4? The folks in Thessalonica, they were sorrowful, to the beating of the breast sorrowful. And Paul says, I don't want you to sorrow like people that have no hope, because you have hope. Because Jesus died, he rose again, and he's going to come back, and he's going to bring with him all the folks that you're mourning over now. And you're going to meet them in the clouds of the air to meet the Lord, and you're always going to be with the Lord. It has an answer in the scheme of redemption. What about guilt? You know, Paul in 1 Timothy chapter 1, verses 13 through 15, never forgot what he did as a persecutor, an injurious person against the church, a violent man. But he said, I'm not like that now. I was that, but I'm not now. And he talks about the grace of God and forgiveness. Well, that's the scheme of redemption. That's redemption through Christ. What about our purpose and our worth? A lot of people searching for that in this world. They're trying so desperately to find it in things like 15 minutes of fame and advocating for, whatever. Money is the be-all and end-all of life. And yet Solomon tried that in Ecclesiastes. And at the end of it, he said, this is the conclusion. I have found that the whole of man is to fear God and keep his commandments. Or like Paul, I'm crucified with Christ. Nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Galatians 2:20. That's what life is all about. The scheme of redemption. Happiness, strength of mind, a sense of indebtedness to God, all find definition in the plan that God had to bring him and man back together. And that's the story of the Bible. All we have left now to do in our study is to determine how God moves us from Genesis 3:15 to the fulfillment of that, and how he did it, through what means he accomplished that. So now we're just going to start throwing the pieces of the puzzle, the rest of the Bible, on top of that. And I think this is where the Bible starts coming alive for us. We know that even in the garden, man had a lot to learn. There still had to be development of our understanding of the scheme of redemption. So how did God develop our understanding of redemption by means of sacrifice? How did he do that? What teaching did God supply to both instruct people, us, mankind, human beings, and regulate our activity? And what agents did God use to this end? How did he accomplish all of that? So our study tonight has not been a long study. We just had a little bit left over from last week. So we won't just arbitrarily go on and on. We're going to end our study, but we're going to next week start putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. Everything that we've discussed now, we've defined it. We know what it is. We know how it works. So now we're going to see it work in Scripture. And I think over the next couple of weeks, this is where everything starts to develop, and the Bible is just going to come alive. That's what we're hoping, is that, again, no matter where you are, you're reading and you say, look, I'm in Ecclesiastes, or I'm reading the Psalms, or I'm reading in, here I am in 1 Kings chapter 16. I want to know what's going on. Oh, I see the scheme of redemption. That's what we're hoping happens for you. So we're going to put a peg in it here. I hope you'll come back and be with us next week. I want you to know until then, I love you very much, and God loves you more, and I hope to see you Sunday in person for our worship services, 9:30, 10:30, and 5 p.m. See you then.